Claire, welcome. And Sarah, maybe you'd like to start by telling us a little bit about background to this particular initiative.
No problem. So I'm going to share my screen. I've got a little presentation to share with you. So there we are. So thank you, Aidan. As Aidan said, I'm Sarah Lyons and I'm representing Bring It On at the webinar today. And Bring It On is a programme which is funded by the Department for the Economy, and it's delivered throughout Northern Ireland by Belfast Met, and it's all about raising awareness on careers and pathways into the IT sector for any new entrant. So today we're going to look at why you might consider a career into IT, pathways into the industry, and of course we're very excited to hear from Marie Claire a little bit later on about the route that she has taken. And given the current situation, we thought it was a good idea to run these webinars all focused around people who perhaps have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and who are thinking about a change of direction at this time. So you may think that getting into IT is only for somebody who is a fresh graduate, but I'm here to tell you today that it's not. There may be traditional routes into the sector, but from working in a college, both Aidan and I will tell you, even before COVID times, we saw people taking the jump and deciding to change and move into IT regularly. So just because you may have worked in one area or one industry for many years, it doesn't mean you should feel stuck. You're going to have skills that are totally transferable and applicable to a life in the IT sector. Another thing I should say is if you've got questions anytime, there is a chat function available here on Webinar Jam, so do drop your questions into the chat. So I'm going to just start off by looking at why you might consider a career in the IT sector. So first of all, salaries, they're higher. According to research published last month by our local statistics and research agency NISRA, the average tech salary is £41,000, and that compares to an average salary of £27,000 across all industries. There are lots of great jobs right here in Northern Ireland. Although COVID-19 has hit the labour market hard, the tech industry continues to grow. According to a report by Tech Nation, Northern Ireland has the highest proportion of digital tech roles of all UK nations, and that's at 23% of all roles advertised. And Northern Ireland has become a real hub now for digital tech, with Belfast ranking in the top 10 tech cities of the future. Working in IT means project work across diverse teams, helping you thrive personally and leading to a really rewarding career. The next point I have here is relaxed and informal working environment. When I was given this presentation before, we were all locked in our bedrooms, and for me in the attic, I would have said the relaxed and informal working environment are areas where you can have coffee, socialise, play video games even. And a company that Aidan and I worked with before even had a slide in their office, so why use the lift or stairs when you can go down to the next floor by slide? Now what I've increasingly been seeing is wellbeing initiatives online, virtual bake-offs, Christmas parties, hampers being delivered. So there is a strong focus on employee engagement, wellbeing and flexibility, which is so important, especially at this time. You're going to have the opportunity to work across many different industries. So it could be in manufacturing, healthcare, cybercrime, and as well as that, there are many different career paths. So IT roles vary widely. When I speak about IT, it's not just one job role or career path. There's a real Pandora's box. There are 4 big areas at the moment: cyber, data, AI, and fintech. You could choose to work in one of these, or you could choose to work in IT in any business. You may not know anything about these areas, but there are ways to find out. There are lots of great online resources, and at the moment there are so many free online conferences in these different subjects that you could attend. Go and find out if this is an area that appeals to you, and then go and look at what courses there are to upskill yourself, and I'll come on to that a wee bit later. The world of technology is constantly changing. You're going to have the opportunity to grow and develop your skills as new technologies emerge. It's not standing still, so you'll enjoy opportunities to keep learning. You'll get to explore your creative side. You'll be asked to contribute to projects, come up with new ideas. That might seem a bit scary or intimidating, but certainly if you're coming from a different industry, you're going to be able to bring a fresh perspective to the table, and that's going to add real value to the business. So we're going to move on now to looking at routes, pathways into the IT sector, and it really depends on you, and it depends on what your learning style is, but I think really there is a route for everybody. So if you have GCSE level qualifications, you could take A level at any subject, but sometimes maths is preferred if you're going to do computer science, but not always. You could do a BTEC diploma or extended diploma at a further education college. This is in a wide range of subjects that you can see at the bottom of the slide there. If you are interested, go and talk to your local further education college. There are lots of virtual open days happening at the moment. Find out more about those courses, or you might consider a general diploma in IT and OCR level 2. If you have A-level or equivalent qualifications, then you could go to university and do a degree or part-time degree. You could do a foundation degree at your local further education college. At the last webinar we held last month, we had a focus on apprenticeships because our guest speaker last month was Laura Suter from Civica, and she talked to us about her apprenticeship journey. So apprenticeships is when you actually are employed and you will attend college 1 day a week and work 4 days a week. So whilst you are working, you're gaining experience, you're earning money, you're gaining additional qualifications. So if you want to get stuck in, you want to get experience, apprenticeships are a good option for you. And if you want to hear more about Laura's story, that's available at our Bring It On YouTube channel. You can watch her interview there. There are also employer-sponsored degree programs that you could consider. So like the likes of Deloitte have their Bright Starts program, Kainos have an Earn As You Learn program, PwC have a tech degree apprenticeship. There are many of the larger employers who have degree-sponsored programs. So next we'll look at if you have a degree level qualification. I'll talk about assured skills last because we're going to hear more about assured skills from Aidan and Marie Claire shortly. So you may consider doing a professional qualification or an industry recognised qualification at one of your further education colleges. So when I talk about an industry recognised qualification, I'm talking about the likes of an MTA, which is a Microsoft Technical Associate qualification, and that's available in a wide variety of areas. So it could be introduction to something like introduction to programming, or you could do, for example, a cyber course, a Cisco Cyber Essentials course. Those are available at local colleges as well. You could consider a graduate traineeship. You could even consider graduate employment from non-IT related degrees. So as I mentioned earlier that you may have a lot of experience in a different industry. That experience may be applicable to a job role in IT even now, so do have a look at different job roles that come out. There are master's degrees in IT related subjects, and there are also master's conversion courses for people from non-IT backgrounds. They're available at both Ulster University and Queen's. And I've highlighted in the middle there, it's the skills intervention program. So that's something that's available at the moment. It's very relevant for the current times that we're in. So if you have been impacted by coronavirus, a range of free fully accredited courses are now available to help you retrain and improve your skills. So I would urge you to look at those now. Those are funded by the Department for Economy, and a lot of those courses are they've been running through the pandemic, but a lot of the next batch are starting in January and finishing in March. So applications are happening now. And to find out more about skills intervention training, if you go to any search engine and type in skills intervention training, that'll bring you to a page on NI Direct, which will list out all of the different further education colleges, universities in Northern Ireland and the courses that they're offering. And there's a wide range of accredited technical qualifications that you can take if you're eligible for those skills intervention programs. So do have a look at those. Then finally on this slide, we have Assured Skills Academy. So Assured Skills is another program which is fully funded by the Department for the Economy here in Northern Ireland. And Assured Skills is a pre-employment program, usually associated with a company, and it's when a company is looking for skills in their particular area that they cannot find in the marketplace. So for example, in the last few months, Belfast Met have run Assured Skills Academies in cyber, in data analytics, in general business consultancy and software testing. So it could be a wide variety of areas. And these programs are designed for an English graduate, so you don't have to have experience in the area. And for every day that you're on the course, you are learning skills that are relevant to the job that you will potentially be going into. And at the end of the program, you are guaranteed an interview with the company. It's a really great program to get into. We've seen many lives changed through the Assured Skills program. I know Aidan has been involved with Assured Skills since 2013 and has seen almost 100 Assured Skills programs delivered at Belfast Met. Over the last few months since the beginning of the pandemic, we have seen 199 people move into jobs through Assured Skills, and that's 94% of the students who are going through those programs in the last few months have got a job. So it is quite significant what you can achieve, and we're going to hear a bit more in a few minutes from Marie Claire on that. I'll not say any more on Assured Skills. Just want to take a few moments to look at a few of the different IT. This is just a very high level snapshot of some of the companies that are active in Northern Ireland. Up in the top left hand corner there, we have Aflac, and they have a European Centre of Excellence in Belfast that offer both software development and cybersecurity solutions. In March of 2020, Aflac had 19 employees, and today they have over 70, which is ahead of where they expected to be. Aidan and I were in contact with Aflac last week, and they were saying it's been a great year for them in the middle of a pandemic. They've grown up to over 70, and they've committed to grow to 150 in the next few years. Down at the bottom here, we have Fintrue. They're a Belfast dairy-based fintech company, and they have created, from March to October, they'd created 200 jobs, and they have been named, wait till I read this out because it's hard to say, Sunday Times Virgin Atlantic Fast Track 100. They are the 42nd fastest growing company in the UK based on their growth over the last 3 years. Version 1 over here on the right hand side is a Dublin headquartered IT service provider, and they have established a digital development hub in Belfast, which will lead to the creation of 70 specialist jobs by October next year. Nuida have announced a £20 million investment with 230 jobs, average salaries around 43,000, and then just last week Liberty IT announced that they're going to be recruiting for 150 new roles in the next 12 months with opportunities in software engineering, architecture, data science, artificial intelligence and product design. So that's a really brief glimpse at some of what's happening with some of these companies. So you can see the breadth of opportunity that there is right here in Northern Ireland in the tech space. So if you are considering getting into IT, what should you do next? Well, the Department for Economy have careers advisors who anybody can go and speak to, and they also have a careers occupational information unit which publishes really relevant information. So recently they've published information about data analytics and also software technology, so do look at those resources. They have videos from people in industry and descriptions of what those fields are, so have a look at those two areas. You could talk to somebody that you know who's working in the industry, and also Bring It On has a pool of ambassadors that you could talk to as well. You could also build up contacts through online platforms. So before COVID, you probably could have gone out to a tech meetup every night of the week. now there are lots of online events, so do look at Belfast groups there are groups for AI, data, cyber, to have a look at what's out there, attend one, go and meet people and talk to them about what's happening in their industry and the roles available. You could also do online courses. There are lots and lots of free courses. Open University have a platform called Open Learn, which has lots of really relevant qualifications that you could do to start off with. So now I am delighted to be able to hand over to Aidan and Marie Claire.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that fabulous overview of the opportunities which are available. And the opportunities are available to someone leaving school at 16, right through to, we were just discussing yesterday, that we've had graduates on the Assured Skills Programme who have been 60 in their 60s. So people even older than me. I mean, there are some people in Northern Ireland who are older than me. They've come onto the programme, but it really is very, very exciting. Wonderful range of opportunities there. And it's an interesting point that you talked about, Sarah, about well-being. We can think of companies, I can think of companies that I've delivered training in for Belfast Met, where they have lunchtime yoga, where they have things like, come in the morning and pick up your bowl and choose the cereal that you want. And one of the favorite ones, I'm not sure this is particularly to do with well-being, with one of the companies whose logo was on your screen, I was delivering some fresh training, some creative thinking training with our graduates, and the chief technical officer walked in and handed everyone a voucher to go and have 2 drinks at the Continental Market. That was, I'm not sure whether that health, well-being, or just have a nice evening, but a nice evening it was. It's an interesting point, Sarah, that you make about the journeys that people take into industry. And I was really enormously moved by the last slide that you showed, which said Marie Claire McGovern, senior consultant.
Yes.
That is, if I can put it bluntly, what we go to school for. It's the most moving part of our job for Sarah, myself, and Susan McCambridge, who's our Assured Skills, program area manager. When you see people coming back with their Deloitte badge or their PwC badge, and they're coming in to, as Marie Claire has done, to train, to help select the next batch of people going into industry, that's, that we're really doing something right. But you can look at the term senior consultant and say, oh my goodness, how do you become a senior consultant? You must have gone and done different degrees in IT and so forth, but not every journey is the same. So I have some questions, Marie Claire, but before that, I wonder if you'd be kind enough, Marie Claire, to take us on a little journey. Maybe you'd start with your choice of A-levels, which I think is a very interesting one, and take it from there, please. You're very, very welcome.
Start with the hardest question, Aidan. So for A-level, I studied French, Spanish and art, and then was also asked to take on a 4th A-level of maths, which we are not going to talk about after me mentioning it right now.
French, Spanish and math. And when you were, you chose your A-levels when you were doing your GCSEs, and had you an idea of what part of the employment sector or industry you wanted to work in, or was it, thank goodness the GCSEs were over, let's choose some A-levels I like?
Definitely not thinking ahead whatsoever. I just chose the subjects that I really enjoyed and did well at. The career counsellor had then advised me to choose maths because you should always have something science-based, which turned out to be a bit of a disaster. But yeah, as most sort of 15, 16-year-olds do, I wasn't necessarily thinking about the future. I just chose the things that I knew that I was good at and enjoyed, and I really didn't have any further plans aside from doing my A-levels either.
Yeah. And I think that's a lovely example. I mean, you've had great success, and it is a lovely example. We've spoken recently about, we ran an academy with Microsoft, and one of their senior premier field engineers joined us on a call, and his story, my question is always, tell us about your story. So his story was fascinating, which was leaving school, becoming a welder, then being made redundant and going back to do the degree that he'd always wanted to do in French, and his professor refusing to accept handwritten essays so at the first time in his life, at the age of 30, he switched on a computer, and the rest is history. And I think that's an interesting point. Sarah mentioned both the Masters in Software Development and also the Assured Skills Academies. We have had every degree coming in. We've had theology, we've had archaeology, we've had zoology, journalism, English, performing arts, as well as all the IT disciplines as well. So, Marie Claire, tell us then about your journey to university, what that was like, please.
So having studied mainly arts subjects, I'd kind of pigeoned myself into doing an arts degree, which was fine, and it's what I wanted to do at the time. So I studied Spanish and business, and I went to university in Dublin. So it's a 4-year course with a year abroad. So it was really learning Spanish through business. So I can quite funnily have a very detailed conversation about the economy and the business sector in Spanish, but couldn't hold a normal conversation with a person on the street. So it's quite funny, the vocabulary that you pick up. But that was it. So and again, I really wasn't thinking about job opportunities after that. I did choose business because I thought, that might broaden my horizons slightly, but I still wasn't sure exactly what it was that I wanted to do when I finished my degree, and just really enjoyed my time as most students do in university, not really thinking too much about the future either. So there's a bit of a common theme in the subjects that I've chosen as I've gone through.
Yeah, well, that's great. Tell me, what part of Spain were you based in for the year that you were away?
Just outside of Madrid. So in a little place called Alcalá de Henares.
Okay, so let me just throw in my little observation there. Did you go to see a football match whenever you were living near Madrid?
No, I actually didn't. Shockingly.
Really? Well, we'll just move on to the next question then. I thought you were going to say that that you could explain the offside rule in Spanish or something like that.
Well, I could give it a go.
You probably do. Dublin, and not an inexpensive city to live in for 3 of your 4 years, but we'll not remind you about that. So tell us about that. You graduated, and you're looking ahead, and you're not afraid of independent learning. You're not afraid of traveling. You go to another country for another year. So when did you start thinking about what followed those 4 years? Was that something you started beginning to think about in first, second, third, or your final year?
Well, as per the previous trend, towards the end of my degree, I started to think about my options after. And I just genuinely had no idea what it is that I wanted to do. I had looked into management consultancy, knowing that companies like Deloitte, PwC, and others have global mobility opportunities where you might be based in an office somewhere else or working with clients in different places. So that sort of piqued my interest, and I thought maybe I'd be able to apply my business knowledge and my language skills, but I genuinely didn't know what management consultancy was. It just was a bit of a buzzword. So I started investigating careers in that regard, but I still just wasn't quite sold. And I also felt, after having studied for 4 years, having studied for the majority of my adult and teenage life, really without a break, that I just wanted to go and do something fun for a while. So I ended up going and working in Spain as an English language teacher, teaching Spanish teenagers who already had, to be honest, a very excellent level of English, but just teaching them about, colloquialisms and the culture of the UK and Ireland. And I did that for a few months to sort of put off the final career decision yet again.
So you came back from you moved, but you missed the climate in Northern Ireland, Marie Claire. So you moved back here from Spain and did that. So tell us about work here. What did you do when you came back? How long were you in Spain teaching English as a TEFL?
Couple of months.
Okay.
Couple of months.
And did you come back for something, to make an application, or did you come back just to begin the process of thinking where you were going to take your career?
To be perfectly honest, I started running out of money because it wasn't a particularly well-paid job, but I also wanted to come back and be closer to family. I had considered moving back down to Dublin, but because of the aforementioned, lack of money and the price of living in Dublin, I decided to come back to Northern Ireland and live in Belfast. And at that point, I sort of realized, okay, well, I need to actually start planning for the future. There weren't that many jobs where I could use my Spanish language in Northern Ireland at that time, at least anyway. So I sort of had to rethink, and that's where I picked up, the management consultancy thing, and actually started to do a bit of investigation of what that actually means. But it was a few months after I'd got back that I really started looking into my options. So there was a bit of a downtime, I'll say, between coming back from Spain and then, kickstarting my journey into the world of careers in Northern Ireland.
So tell us about that research thing. I mean, how did you, what was the gap between you returning and you joining the Assured Skills Academy with Deloitte? And that was 2015. So how long had you been home before you joined the academy?
I think it was about 2 or 3 months. So I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of like researching in newspapers and reading about technology actually. At that time, blockchain was only becoming a thing, and it was the new technology that everyone was talking about. So I got really interested in it because I could see that there were a lot of applications for it, not just for finance, but also for, you know, developing countries and improving the lives of others, which is something that's really important to me. So sort of seeing the social aspect of technology rather than just looking at pure details of tech in itself, but actually the wider and worldwide applications of that is where I realized, you know, technology isn't just about sitting in a room by yourself with your hands on a keyboard. It can actually have a much greater societal impact, which, yeah, is something that was really important to me in terms of career.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, we worked with a cybersecurity company recently, and the lady, it was one of their very senior members of staff, she came in and she said to the graduates, you know, the first thing I want you to do when you go out to a company where there's been a breach is to think about the impact on the person running it. Think of the impact on their relationships with their family and with all, you know, and take this seriously. It's not just, you know, A plus B equals C. Think about the human side of that. So walk us through the process. You heard about the Assured Skills program. Maybe you tell us about MindMill and maybe the application interview process before you arrive with us, because I think some people would be very interested, everybody very interested in finding out how that works.
Yeah, so from recollection, I had to do online psychometric testing, which is sort of a combination of, like, you might see pictures on a screen and you have to match the words together quite quickly, or you have to do, you know, sort of simple arithmetic, which after my maths A level should have been a bit easier than what it actually was. But things like this, where you have time-based responses to understand just how quickly your brain can kind of process information. So I believe that was sort of the MindMill section.
Sure.
And I also had to do just fill in quite a relatively simple application form as well and attach my CV. So to be honest, it was fairly straightforward. I think, you know, most people wouldn't have difficulty, certainly with the application itself anyway, which is good.
And interview or information evening, how did that work? I mean, how did you find out more?
So there was an information evening as well, where we all went over to the Deloitte office, had pizza, beer, which is obviously gets everyone excited, and just heard a bit more about the programme and what there was to offer. So it was a great opportunity to meet other people who may or may not have been offered positions on the Assured Skills Academy, and also get a chance to speak to some of the people from the company, obviously being Deloitte, so that you already sort of could understand a bit about the culture, what the people are like, and realize that they're all just humans too. So I thought that was really useful. And then it meant when I went to interview, the manager who did interview me for the position had been there that evening, so we already had that rapport, which was good. And the interview was approximately 30 minutes, just asking sort of questions about my background and why I wanted to work for Deloitte.
A kind of competency-based questions about what you had done, teamed with what you knew about the company. Is that right, or were there other?
Yeah, that's correct. So mostly competency-based, and then a bit about what you knew about the company and what they did as well, and then interests in technology.
Sure. So you got up to speed. Well, the rest, as they say, is history. So you came onto the Assured Skills program, and it's pretty intense, isn't it? I mean, most people think of it. I can think of a postgrad qualification I did where I drove up to Coleraine on a Wednesday night, you know, for 3 hours, and like that was it. You know, I was teaching full time at the time, so it was. But this is so walk us through that model. It's 9 to 5, 5 days a week. It's not easy.
Yeah, so it's classroom-based learning, which is actually one of the things that really attracted me to the Assured Skills Academies. I know everyone has their own learning style. Some people are really good at just learning by themselves, like watching videos and reading things. For me, I like to hear someone else explain it, get the opportunity to ask them questions, and then apply that. And it's through the application of the knowledge that I find that I personally learn in the best way. So yeah, that classroom-based experience where you have you're in a room with a group of people, you have a lecturer who's there to support and guide, and often, you know, a lot of the people working in the academies have a lot of business acumen and you know, just really know their stuff. So you're working with people who really understand the industry, the job market, and what's going on with companies in Northern Ireland, which was great. So it was that sort of 9 to 5 classroom based for the first 9 weeks, I believe. And then we moved for the last 4 weeks into the Deloitte offices, where we actually did a project together. So we were in teams sort of competing with one another, which was quite intense, to be honest, and applying the information that we'd learned to a real world business problem. So acting as if we were actually consultants, consulting with others, asking questions of our sort of pretend client, and then coming up with a proposal over the course of 4 weeks, which was just a great way to apply all of the different things that we'd learned about communication, team working, and then all of the IT skills that we'd learned as well, and put that against a real world problem.
Well, that leads rather nicely into the next part of what I was going to talk about, because you're talking there about client simulation, about working with people.
Yes, exactly.
And looking at that. So let's talk about curriculum, because I think that's important, because people can look at that and go, my goodness me, 9 to 5, 5 days a week for 9 weeks. That's pretty intense. And it is. But it's not just the technical skills, Marie Claire, is it?
No, definitely not. And that's why the academies are so successful. So you start off by, you know, learning about yourself, your own learning style, your communication style, how you work with others, which is so important, you know, going into a job with an understanding of the best way that you can put yourself across to others, how you can work with other people who might have a clashing personality style, and then, you know, what's the best way for you to learn. So important. And those are the kind of, you know, human skills that you're taught over the first couple of weeks of the academy, and all of that is sort of sprinkled in with that IT based learning. So first of all, the introductory concepts, then you might do, depending on the course, you might do some hands-on development, but all of it, you know, really structured in a guided environment with people that you can ask the right questions to. So it's quite good the way you sort of sandwich in those business skills alongside the technical skills to make sure that you really have that holistic journey throughout the academy.
And that's absolutely essential, isn't it? You know, in that I can think of one very senior person in one of the big 4 companies that we work with, and what drives him on, and something he comes back to all the time, is, can I put this person in front of a client? You know, can I put this person in front of a client who has a challenge, who has a difficulty, who maybe needs to change direction? So that business man, I had a boss once who used to say the hardest part of any job is not the job, it's the people. It's just getting on with, sharing territory and moving on with that. Tell us about then, when you're looking at that, so you progressed that, you liked working in the company. So say somebody's listening to you today, or they're catching up with you on the YouTube channel, and they're thinking about this career in IT. I think it's interesting that you talked about your art subjects at A level, your degree, about working abroad. Speak directly, Marie Claire, to somebody who's toying with the idea and thinking, well, maybe my skills, maybe my degree qualification, maybe my industrial experience isn't particularly relevant. What would you say? I mean, you're now in a senior role, so what would your advice be?
I really think any background that you have is probably relevant to IT. And I say that because we're not just looking in the IT industry for people that are going to be, you know, hands-on keyboards developing something. There are such a wide range of profiles that we're looking for. You know, we need project managers, people who are organized and can organize others well. We need analysts who can really dissect information, ask the right questions, and structure a response. We, of course, do always need developers. So if that's something that you're interested in, that you've never done before or have done before, there's always a need for more people like that. But there are so many other roles that sit just outside of those sort of core profiles, where the key skills that you need to have are communication, probably leadership skills in some way, so being able to step up and help your team, working in a team, collaborating with others, and then the ability to problem solve, so applying, you know, logical reasoning and questioning decisions in order to solve a problem or make a decision. And, you know, regardless of your degree discipline or what job you're currently in, it's highly likely that you have at least some of those skills. And if you don't have them all, there's lots of things that you can do to work on them.
So let's just pick that up. I mean, I was interested in what you're saying there. I'm going this afternoon. We're having a presentation skills competition for our IT apprentices at level 3. We're doing that online. But tell us about the CPD. Tell us about your continuing professional development, because obviously, in the past, maybe people of my vintage would say, oh, thank goodness I've got a degree. Now I've got a master's. That's me with learning. Well, of course, it's not. So CPD, a big part of your professional development?
Absolutely. And that's like some of the best advice that I was given by one of my clients, actually, who was in his later stages in life, we'll say, but always doing new courses and learning new things. Was that learning is a continuous journey, and it doesn't stop the day that you get your job. So certainly in professional services organizations like Deloitte, you're really given the opportunity to learn what it is that interests you. There are so many different resources that are available to you, and not even just if you work for these companies, but just as an individual. Like Sarah mentioned before, you can look on LinkedIn, have courses, YouTube. There's lots of resources available to you to help you upskill. And that's something that I personally do, or try to do when I have the time. I haven't just done one certification before I joined Deloitte, and that's me done. I'm continuing to upskill, challenge myself, and learn new things to make sure that my skill set doesn't become outdated or redundant.
Mm-hmm. And that's a brilliant point, because we were talking recently with Alan Drake from PwC, and he's responsible for over 100 qualifications in CPD. And one of his colleagues said, and that list is going to get longer, as the demands of industry, as things change. Sarah was talking about the courses. Obviously, you can have a full-time course like the Assured Skills or an apprenticeship or something like that. But the free at the point of entry, the free courses as well, the short courses, and then the fabulous point that you made, Marie Claire, about the LinkedIn and YouTube courses. I once heard someone who was a strange thing to say, who was a stand-up comedian, and the advice that he was giving to people who wanted to be stand-up comedian was this: when you're not working, work on your act. So I would imagine if there's somebody not working today, they can work on their professional act in terms of getting into IT by doing an MTA, by doing a LinkedIn course, by doing a YouTube, by listening to Richard Morgan's Inside Business program on BBC Radio Ulster, and following all the companies on Twitter, by looking at the Belfast Chamber of Commerce's bulletin every Friday, which is 15 points of light, 15 pieces of really good news. So you can begin to swim in the sea, even if you've got no job. You can start learning. I want to come back to something which is very important to you, which is culture. And I'd like you to tell us about the culture of the company, why that's important to you, and how that affects your kind of mood whenever you're working.
Well, working for a company like Deloitte, culture is at the pinnacle of everything that we do. That's what we're recognized for. That's why people, work for Deloitte and stay there for a really long time. And there's a lot of technology organizations that have that culture. What we mean by culture is, what is the working environment like? Are people supportive? Are there resources available to you if you're struggling, or even if you're not? So things that Deloitte are doing at the minute, because of the current climate, are yoga classes, exercise classes, drawing classes for children in the evenings, lots of things to engage the entire family. Brilliant. There's always someone there to talk to if you need. You have career mentors, guides, and people who will support you. You have sponsors who will sponsor your career and are also just there as a sort of shoulder to lean on when you need it. And that's, the people of the company are what makes the company. A company is not just an organization. It's not just something that exists. It is a living and breathing thing that is made up of the types of personalities and the humans that work in it. And that's why I think culture is so important, because if you're working in an environment where the culture is toxic, or, you don't get the support that you need, it just makes coming to work that bit harder.
Yeah. And I think as well, I think we can all reflect back in education. If you were frightened in class, if you were frightened to ask a question because you didn't want to ask a daft question, you're not going to learn anything. And that, what you're talking about there, the culture is very, very important. I mean, work hard and be nice to people. Sarah and I know a company whereby we had a graduate working with them, and he was headhunted by another company who offered him £5,000 a year more, and he wouldn't move. Simply because of the culture. He liked where he worked. And the point he made was, in fact, he said he loved where he worked. He liked it on a Monday morning, but he loved it the rest of the week. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I remember watching a documentary about BBC Radio 2 and Terry Wogan, and there he was, flicked the microphone on at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning and went, listeners, Monday at last. Now, I don't think anyone's ever going to, I don't think anyone will ever be a station say Monday at last. But you made a very good point there about that, about the health benefits and about your mental health benefits as well, the mentoring and all of that. So the companies that are really switched on and really want to help people, will avoid churn, will keep their good employees, will keep their talent and offer them that opportunity to develop. You mentioned something which I thought was very interesting about working with and learning from a client. And that leads us into something which we think is very interesting. People listening to you today, and they look at you and they say, senior consultant, it was very exciting for us to have you back last year delivering on one of the academies. That's wonderful. We're listening to you today and you're working with a range of clients and you worked across the globe. What are some of the best pieces of advice that you've been given, not just about your career, but just about the work-life balance or looking after yourself or enjoying your career? Anything there that you think would spring to mind?
I feel like I've been given so much great advice. It's hard to pick one particular thing out. So certainly about continuous learning. Another about, I suppose, setting boundaries. It's something that's been a really hot topic of conversation for us at the moment. We're working in an atmosphere where your office and your bedroom might be the same place. So it's really important that you set boundaries and that you respect your own time. It can be really easy just to stay on, on your laptop or working until much later in the evenings, just because you don't really have that boundary between your working and your living environment. But actually, closing the door on that room, going and taking a walk, if you're on calls, maybe having that while you're out for a walk, just on the telephone with your headset, just respecting your own time and setting those boundaries is so important. There are a lot of times where you do have to go above and beyond for your clients, and you might work slightly after your normal working hours, but it's important, especially now, that doesn't become the norm. And I think that's true regardless of what industry you work in. So I think setting boundaries is something that, and I think the boundaries have become a bit of a grey area at the moment. So it's just important to sort of reset your thinking around that, and then just respect yourself and your own time.
And invest in you and look after you and
absolutely.
That's an important thing. I wanted to kind of just as we move to the end of our chat. And I want to focus on somebody we've talked about somebody who's in full-time employment, or we've talked about somebody who's looking for a career change, and they might like to think about maybe the Shared Skills program or doing some MTA qualifications or something like that. I want to go right back, and I want to go back to a young woman choosing A-levels today, as you were. That person's thinking about a career in IT. What would you say to them about their choice of A-levels or extended diploma in FE? What would you say to somebody who's sitting at 16, 18, 21, thinking about a career in IT?
So I would say let's go through the age brackets. If you're 16 and thinking about your A-level choices, probably do better than me and do consider beyond your A-levels perhaps. But I think it's also important to know that you can do the subjects that you enjoy and still work in IT if that's eventually your goal. It doesn't close the door to you if you do just go with those subjects that you enjoy and you're good at.
Yeah,
it makes it probably a little easier sometimes if you do have that technical background. But IT A-level isn't for everyone. Neither is games development. And as I've said, there are so many career opportunities within IT where you don't need to be super technical. You just need to be a good communicator, for example.
Yeah.
For those who are in university now and maybe haven't studied IT, again, there are so many conversion courses that you can do. There are lots of opportunities for you as well. I would say start thinking about it now. Start looking at your opportunities and learn from me, and don't leave it until the end of your final year. And then for those who are coming from a completely different background, perhaps have been subject to a bit of disillusionment with the current job market, just aren't really sure about the future of their career, then just having an interest in something like technology can be really powerful. So as you said, Aidan, you know, listening to the news or a podcast about it, you know, reading the Sunday the section in the Sunday paper about technology, just to kind of pique your interest in what that could mean. And then understanding what opportunities are available to you as well, because I suppose the key message is, regardless of what direction you've chosen, there are so many ways that you can sort of repivot yourself, as long as you're willing to sort of take on the learning and be open to it.
And that's absolutely, I mean, that's really germane, the point that you're making there, and that you can hear, for example, something on the radio, or you can watch something on CNBC. It's an interesting thing. I was at a talk at the Belfast Media Fest. My industrial experiences in broadcasting, not in IT. And I was at a talk at the Belfast Media Festival a couple of years ago, and there was this fabulous woman over from BBC Bristol, their talent manager there, called Helen Hagelthorne. And she talked about, you know, going into the media industry, and she said, but, you know, buy a copy of Broadcast Magazine and read it. But she also talked about freezing end credits. Freeze the end credits. So you see somebody who's a director of photography, are they on Twitter? Somebody who's a vision mixer, are they on Twitter? So you're looking at this in terms of, you're listening to Inside Business on BBC Radio Ulster, and you hear somebody from Fincher or Deloitte or PwC, are they on Twitter? Like, direct message them, not with, can I have a job or can I have a placement? But really enjoyed your contribution to the program. I find it very interesting, full stop. And you might get nothing back, but you might then get the radiator turned on in the cold room. And when you go to events, we have a fabulous student here called Stacey Burns, who's now working on a film. She's a media graduate, and she got involved in the Royal Television Society and their futures. There are all sorts of careers events. And she went to everything that was going. And the guy that gave her a job on the film said, oh, you're the girl that goes to things. And I thought that was a very interesting point, because any talk, any careers event, any kind of networking event that was happening, Stacey went to it, and the rest is history. She's achieving great things. And the same is true, Marie Claire, what you're saying. There are free, as you pointed out, LinkedIn, Chamber of Commerce events, webinars, all of those things. And maybe just asking a question or making a point or following up gives you something which is maybe a little bit of an edge over someone else.
Definitely agree with that. I think the power of your network can't be underestimated. And most of the time, if you do reach out to people, I mean, people are obviously busy, but a lot of the time, if you have something really specific that you're actually interested in, you know, people will come back to you and give you the answer that you need. And that could be that person who then will speak to you the next time that you see one another, and might be able to advise you of a job opportunity that they think might suit your skill set.
But what you've talked about there is very interesting, because what you've done is established a relationship with that person.
Exactly.
So it's not cold calling. Like, you're actually going to an event and you know something about them. You say something which is truthful. You say something which is sincere. I enjoyed your contribution to the Inside Business program about robotics, or I enjoyed I read with interest your article on the Chamber of Commerce website about, whatever that might be, financial technology. And somebody will go, oh, that's good. You're interesting. You're interested in what I'm doing, and you've established that. And then you can, if they want to engage you in conversation, that's fine. And if not, that's fine too. You can just get out there. But the past, certainly, when I go back to when I graduated, I think there was a feeling that, I've got a degree, the world owes me a living. Well, guess what? There are lots and lots. There are lots and lots and lots of people with those qualifications. But it's the plus. What have you done? Plus, you worked abroad, you studied abroad, you actively researched what was going on in industry, and I think that's a very good thing to talk about as well. And just one little point that you made about the Master Software Development, Sarah talked about that. I can think of two people who did that. One had a degree in drama and one had a degree in media, and they did the Master in Software Development. Both did graduate academies with us, and both are now full-time employment in the IT sector. So, even if you get to the grand old age of 21 and have a degree, I'm sure you can apply. There are lots and lots of routes there. I think your success story is one which is inspirational, Marie Claire. We're enormously grateful to you for taking the time to chat to us today, to share your expertise. Sarah, I wonder, just as the brains of the operation, as somebody who's put all of this together and brought us together for this chat today, would you have any final thoughts on anything that Marie Claire has said, or any other points that you think our viewers might be interested in?
No, I think that everything that Marie Claire has shared with us today is really great advice. So everything, it's really starting with upskilling yourself and what's happening in the industry, building your network out, and just horizon scanning, seeing what's available out there. It's so important. And if you like Marie Claire, like myself as well, I was quite similar actually as you, Marie Claire. I was a linguist as well, and I ended up working in IT before I joined Belfast Met, and the careers teacher at that time told me to do a science to keep my options open, and that really wasn't me. So if you are at that stage choosing, like, don't be discouraged, like, go with what your gut's telling you. And if you have experience, there are still ways and pathways to get into the industry, and do reach out to us, and we gladly talk to anybody who wants to find out more information.
And you can be a little overawed by what you're doing. Sarah's too modest to say that you worked in a senior position in the automotive industry and worked in Iran. I think you visited Iran 11 times. And as a woman in management, I think you have some interesting insights there, which we might share on another on another occasion. Just a final observation that I had just about the degree which you come with. We had a student with a degree. One of the first MTAs. The first MTA that I remember taking a group down to Titanic Quarter to do, the guy who got the highest mark in the group, I'll never forget, this was networks, and his degree was in zoology. And we had a student just this year who's now working in the industry and in fintech, and her degree was in theology. And we had a bit of a giggle about that with the lecturer, who said, hang on a minute, somebody who can translate Greek and Hebrew will have no problem working their way through a set of So every qualification, every experience. And I think, just in closing, what Marie Claire talked about is you can develop it full time, and you can do it with very little time, and you can do it with absolutely no money. So some of these courses are free. Networking is very often free, and qualifications you can pick up are free with Belfast Met. So reach out to us. On behalf of everyone at Belfast Metropolitan College, may I thank you, Marie Claire, for sharing your expertise with us. You've been enormously generous with your time. Your thoughts have been inspirational, for which we are most grateful. And Sarah, we thank you very much for putting this together, for bringing us all together to celebrate the success that people can have in an industry which provides wonderful rewards and great opportunities. So thank you, Marie Claire.
Thank you both for having me. Honestly, it's been great. Always good to catch up.
You have been wonderful, and an inspirational presentation today. Sarah, thank you very much indeed. And thank you everyone for following us today. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you all very much.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.